Welcome to episode 2, I guess, of Anonymators review. I'm here with Emily Strasser.
Yay!
And Regan Greenwood.
Hello!
And today we're going to talk about Boxtrolls. Okay, well, I don't know. First things first, what did you guys really like design-wise? Before we hop into the story, I think we'll go down what we did last time with the Equestria Girls. We'll just talk about what we liked graphically, and then sound, and then we'll talk about the movie.
Do you want to go first, Regan?
Sure, I guess. I don't know. I think I've told you before that as far as designs go for films, Boxtrolls is my favorite so far.
Yeah.
I just really love that. It's almost got a slightly milk call feel, I think, just with the...
You know, the first thing I thought when we got, just a little bit into it was Roald Dahl.
Sorry?
Roald Dahl. Do you know Roald Dahl? James and the Giant Peach.
Oh, okay.
I don't know, because if you look at, a lot of, the sketches inside of Roald Dahl books,
okay.
It had sort of that,
that feel?
That, especially in, witches, for example. That's what I took from it. But anyway, sorry to interrupt you.
Yes.
Yeah, I really love the designs, especially for... I don't think they ever said his name, but that he was one of the stooges, one of the three workers for...
There was... I remember...
Little nasty guy.
Oh, I don't remember the nasty
because
guy.
He was nasty.
I remember there was Mr. Trump, I think was the big guy's name.
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about
Pickles.
the good guys, or the exterminators, whatever.
Yes.
Yeah, the exterminators, and then there was one guy who was just violent and crazy, but I loved his...
He was like an egg shape.
Yeah, he was so great, and in his mouth, he had this, little triangle lip. It was really cool. I liked it.
But those are also very traditionally, I find, British designs. Again, if I go back to the Roald Dahl sort of sketches, they were always, even if you look at, a lot of, I think, British cartoons, there's always, those pursed lips, or, pointy features, or, really, sort of, as you said, the triangle lip, and then it, curls down a bit, they do that with older ladies. You've seen, James and the... Fantastic Mr. Fox?
Yes.
I think,
a while ago,
the designs in there also, Roald Dahl, that is a Roald Dahl book, though, so... Anyway.
Yeah. I think I mentioned to you, while we were still in the theater and we were watching the credits, and I actually, I noticed this I remember shortly after Paranorman came out, somebody made a comic about, if there's one thing I took away from Paranorman, it's that it was something about the asymmetry, and I think that's what, because I'm without me trying to push myself to learn perspective, I'm so particular about the straight lines that I forget that sometimes it's really cool to just have your lines just be wiggly and see what happens. And I think, and that was what really struck me as really cool about, the designs of the houses and the characters, is that the lines aren't straight. Even and these are carved houses. Somebody didn't draw this. They actually, carved it to make it look like someone drew it with a bit of a shaky pen or something. And I thought that was really cool, and it really, I don't know, for some reason with the character designs, it really put everything together for me.
Okay.
So, I thought that was...
I did love the design of the city, that whole, all the houses in that, going built up like that. I thought it just looked really interesting.
We need to talk about that robot at some point.
Yes.
The machine.
Oh, the
spoiler bot.
Yeah. We'll get into it during the breakdown of the film, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, so the design aesthetic was very pleasing. I like, one of my favorite things with the Boxtrolls themselves is how they clap or are very happy when they hit the box like that.
Yeah.
Hitting their chest, but hitting the box and making sort of a clapping noise. I like that. That really gave the trolls sort of their own culture.
Yeah.
It was this is how they evolved to that point. they're good little tinkerers and builders, but they've also got sort of it wasn't just a random clap where they were goofy like a monkey style clap or whatever, but it was their uniqueness. So I felt that was nice, giving it a bit of a cultural significance of their own.
On that note, too, I noticed when I noticed too that the way that they would hold their arms out, like they had a very specific way of doing gestures and movement, and they would often hold their arms out, and they would just sort of hang them in the air where their hands are kind of limp, but their arms are up, like they're about to grab something, but they never really do. And I noticed that when Eggs is the protagonist of the film, the kid who is raised by Boxtrolls, when he's initially he goes into the human world, he does that, where he does the little arms thing, and the girl whose name escapes me right now, the little red-haired girl, she had to keep putting his arms down because he's so used to keeping his arms up.
Like that?
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, and the way that they fold their arms in it. I thought that was like, you know, again, it gives them their own culture and their own mannerisms of movement. I thought that was just really cool. It's a really good way to characterize
them. They're definitely a creature.
Yes, yeah. But I mean, they're intelligent too.
Yeah.
They have their own way of doing things, of talking, of you know. So, I guess we'll get more into that in the story, but it kind of plays into like a bit of the premise of the film is that, you know, these are the monsters and we're the good guys because we're the people, but these are just, you know, brainless monsters who eat your children.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But it was what was nice about it, like, I mean, because it's not the first time a story like that's been told where who's the monsters? Is it us? It's usually told from the human's perspective, right?
Yeah.
And even though Eggs is a human, the story is told from a Boxtrolls perspective.
Yeah.
So it always seems like the humans are the bad guys from the get-go. It's never like, oh, we're doing this to protect ourselves. Oh, I later found out that there's something evil and sinister going underneath. You know, it's like, no, from the get-go we know this is wrong. You know, it's and I think that was a refreshing bit of storytelling, I felt. Another thing in the movie itself, like, avoided a lot of you know, stereotypes or tropes that it could have sort of told, and it didn't. It I wouldn't say it's completely original, but it definitely told everything in a way that made the story seem original.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't read the original book.
I didn't even know there was a book.
No, there was. You remember in the credits?
Well, that was the first question I had, like, while the movie was just starting, like, the opening credits. I'm like, is this based off a book or something? And then, like, we had to wait until the credits was, like, based on the novel, Here Be Monsters.
Yeah.
So...
I've been meaning to go to the library and see if I could find it. Though I'm sure with the movie's release, it's probably been checked out. Yeah.
We can probably buy it now or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that requires money. Money I don't really have right now.
At the moment.
The thing with the Boxtrolls that absolutely fascinates me, it's stop motion. Like, everything had to be rigged out and planned. Like, when you were talking about the Boxtrolls hitting their boxes, someone had to animate those boxes moving.
Yeah.
Someone had to rig up a box so that it wouldn't, like, crumple and fall apart. Like, it would actually move, and it's a machine. Yeah. That box is a machine.
And also, speaking just like the animation alone, I mean, it's not once or twice that they do it. It's like often there's like a whole group of them.
Yeah.
Clapping, you know, and it's.
Oh, speaking of the stop motion thing, I think what really draws me to Leica's style, and especially with the Boxtrolls, is I felt that they were trying to go for a more painterly look. Like, you could see on every single one of the models, like, there were just little streaks of blue or pink or something. And, like, I've seen that done in 3D. Like, recently my brother brought up this old 3D short that I remember when it came out, but he just saw it and he was like, have you ever seen this? It was very stylistic. It was called the Backwater Gospel. If you look it up on Vimeo, it is very graphic, but if that doesn't bother you, I highly recommend it, because they did this and I was doing some digging on how the compositing, and, like, you can achieve that in 3D, but to do that with stop motion is a completely different ball game, because you have to print out every single one of these mouth shapes, every single one of these face shapes of the eye shapes. And I did learn that Leica does use like different face plates.
Yeah.
Like they're able to just take off the mouth and then replace it.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go back digitally and they erase the seams.
Face line.
Yeah. I actually met one of the sculptors for Coraline.
Awesome.
Yeah, and it was at San Diego Comic-Con 2009, and I talked to him a little bit about the process, and I thought that was just really fascinating, the way that... Because I didn't learn from... Because I think the movie was it was either still in theaters or it wasn't released yet. I think it wasn't released yet. I can't remember the exact timeline, but it wasn't out on DVD yet. So he was the first guy that told me, oh, this is what Leica does, is they remove the faceplates. I thought that was so cool, but I don't know, the fact that it is stop motion, I was just blown away by the camera movements, which in previous stop motion films, pretty much before the 2000s, I think, we weren't able to have these trucking camera motion. And now with the 3D, I think, even with the 3D, it baffles me how much planning has to go into these shots where the camera is following these characters down these really complex trucking shots.
Yeah.
How? That's just so cool.
Well, I mean, I think it was you who mentioned before, or I guess both of you being 3D students, treat the camera as a character,
yeah.
You know, so I think, that's... I mean, it's a lot of planning, right? It's not just... I could also imagine that they probably have, a screen in front of them. I'm sure it's not just them and then moving the screen or the camera a little bit and then moving the characters a bit. I'm sure they have, a video in front of them that they're, watching... you know, and then screenshot. But nonetheless impressive, because there's a lot going on. You know, you got your character moving, you got your characters bouncing through the air while the camera's moving around them. You know, it's it's by no means. It makes me wonder, is it? Because I don't think there's room in there for junior animators.
Yeah.
You know, that's definitely a team of a lot of senior animators who really love the job.
Yeah.
You know?
I can imagine with Leica's success, 3 movies in a row that have just been wonderful. I can imagine there's going to be a huge interest in stop motion, a reawakening, if you will.
Yeah, and they've got kind of the gothic style going for them.
Yeah.
Like that, the Nightmare Before Christmas and Corpse Bride and stuff, that those films left off, which a lot of artists are really into as well.
Yeah, well, Coraline was directed by the same guy who did, a lot of people don't know this, but Tim Burton did not actually direct Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah, that was just his concept.
Yeah, so that was why everyone got confused when Coraline came out, and it was it was directed by Tim Burton. It was actually, Tim Burton did not direct this film, nor The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Fun little tidbit. I found out recently that the only reason Nightmare Before Christmas is a Disney film is because Tim Burton was doodling Jack Skellington at the Disney studio, and so I guess what happened, it was he wanted to still have the rights to the character, so he had to make a movie about him or something weird like that.
Were they claiming it as theirs because it was drawn on property? Yeah,
because Disney is very particular about that. Anything you draw on Disney property, that's Disney's property.
That happens sometimes.
Yeah. So I thought that was interesting. Anyway, back to the Boxtrolls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So other than that, you know, one of the things also design-wise that I really liked, and I believe they did this on purpose compared to the rest of the film, is the little girl, her face, whenever she would talk and stuff, always looked like it was stop motion. I don't know if that makes sense. You could see sort of the shifts, and when you watch Fantastic Mr. Fox, right, there was always that shift in the fur, right, and they did a lot of that on purpose, just because obviously when they would move it they would like smudge the fur, so they would brush over the characters again just to sort of give it that constant sort of brush look that they have, but it looks like the hair is always, because I mean hair can't always stay in the same spot, right?
Yeah.
Like her face, to me, I loved it because there was always this weird sort of blemish that like shifted on her face, like, because I'm guessing each plate was painted differently or whatever, but I never saw that with any of the other characters. Like, you know, the Boxtrolls, like, I mean, I guess because of the way that their color scheme worked or whatever, it really came out super clearly on her. Now, whether it was done on purpose, I don't know, but I feel like it would have been done on purpose because they could have easily fixed that type of thing in post, and they didn't, and I think it kept, that to me was the anchor that kept the whole thing in stop motion, whereas otherwise I would have just assumed it was a 3D film claiming to be stop motion, because that's how good and clear it is, right? I mean, there is still sort of that stop motion feel to it, you know, because, you know, it is frame by frame to, you know, animate forward, but it's really smooth. Like, everything, animation is like super smooth, and yeah, I mean, and the acting of the characters is also very, very impressive.
Yeah. I mean, Regan, you're the only one who's ever done stop motion. Like, I've attempted it. I had a short film. I had a short film when I was at the university where I had these Bionicle figures, and I would animate the most simple of movements, like the arm would go up or something. And even that was just like, how do people do this well?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, when I was making my puppets, they were made out of like wire and liquid latex covered cotton and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But no, what Leica does for their rigs is incredibly complex.
Oh yeah.
Like, all those faces are 3D printed. They go over them and they fix them by hand. Like 3D printers can only go so far, but the skeletons that they make for them and the really complex wire armatures.
Oh yeah.
It's a completely different ballgame.
Yeah.
So much more complex than anything I could make at this point.
I'd imagine on the Leica team there's a lot of different types of people, like not just the animator types, but also mechanics, and I know that...
Oh, you'd have to have that.
Well, yeah, like you'd have to have...
You got people who are professional puppeteers, right?
Yeah,
on the team, and you got people who are professional, like every one thing. I mean, we saw in the credits alone there were people who just set up the rigs, you know. Like this is a professional level project that's more than one person's sort of baby, right? It's I mean, story alone is one thing, and that also gets taken care of by a bunch of people, but one puppet was probably designed by one person type thing, you know. Like it's one person who does that for, like, that's it's been his entire life to like accumulating to this point, and it's just perfect that he can do it, you know.
I mean, I think it's become a dream. It's almost like I feel like in the animator world, it's almost become a dream to work at Leica. Much in the same way that Disney has been a dream for a lot of animators to work on.
Yeah, I can see like a sort of, because they've definitely brought back stop motion, though where it went I couldn't really tell you, because I remember watching a lot of stop motion Rankin and Bass, you know, as a kid.
Those were kind of scary to watch.
Well, but you know, it was what it was.
Well, Rankin Bass was not known for their quality.
No, for sure.
Yeah, but I mean, the idea is like it's better that, because I mean, a lot of people fall back on that, right? They they remember like watching that, and then there was this. Sorry?
Aardman?
Oh yeah, you can't forget about Aardman.
Aardman, they did Chicken Run, and they did Wallace and Gromit.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah, okay. I suppose, I was actually just about... Thank you for stopping me there, because I was just about to say there was this echo where there was, like, nothing for a while. But, I mean, was Pirates Band of Misfits?
That was Aardman, I think.
But was that also stop motion, or was that 3D?
That was stop motion, and, like, there's... There seems to be 3D elements in most films now.
Yeah, and then I guess the aforementioned The Fantastic Mr. Fox was also... I don't know. It's definitely a lot of work, and I do think the stories can afford to be more unique. because of the obscurity of the medium.
Yeah.
So people can be like, well, look, we're going to put a lot of money into this, but because we're going to put so much love into this, like you're going to have to let us write the story we want to write, you know, because when I think for the most part when it comes to 3D movies, if they can't reuse the rigs to make, say, a second movie easily enough, or to turn it even into a TV show, it's highly unlikely that it'll probably even be done. Whereas with 2D animation, and especially stop motion, you're going to have a hard time turning that into a TV show, because 2D you have to obviously draw or pose out properly, and with stop motion you got to that's doing a major production every time you make unless of course expensive. You cut a lot of corners, you know. So I don't see that being a profitable way of doing things, but I do see because of that I think it keeps the sort of the quote unquote corporations out of the whole, you know, the whole medium, that they're not like, well, you know, mass produce this dreck for, because I mean, let's face it, 3D, as great as it is, there's a lot of repeat performances. I use Madagascar or Ice Age. You know, they definitely Shrek. You know, they fall into that. Unfortunately, I mean, it's not to say that the writing's not funny. It's not to say that the animators aren't doing a good job. It's all there, but it's mass produced. It's got that mass produced feel to it, and not because, again, of all the things I've said. It's just because we've seen this 3 times already. Now you're just doing more of the same, and it's not impressing anybody anymore. Like, you jump back to Toy Story, people minds were blown when that movie came out. Now everyone's like, well, now we're just expecting it, you know. Like, nobody is impressed by it anymore. It's in fact, it looks like people are more impressed by 2D art and movies nowadays more so than even the 3D stuff, which is crazy, because the 3D stuff, there's a lot of work that goes into it. I mean, Big Hero 6 that's coming out soon looks amazing. You know, it's you know, dating the podcast, I guess, but anyway. Back to Boxtrolls, I do think it's an amazing job what they've done, and good for Leica that they're sticking to their guns, that they haven't sort of found a way to, I don't know if this is a bad thing, because when you look at it from an economic standpoint, not being able to mass produce your stuff and make a lot of money all the time, it's a bad model. But these guys are definitely doing it for the love of the medium and the love of animation, the love of storytelling, and that shines through. At least in my opinion, for the last 2 movies, as you both know, not a fan of Coraline, but I watched it at a bad time in my life, and I am willing to give it another shot. So
okay. We'll strap you to a chair and we'll do the whole, like...
I said I'm willing to do this. Like, I'm 100% behind. You don't have to go all Clockwork Orange on me.
Thank you. I'm glad you got that reference. Because the movie was escaping me for a minute. I was like, what was that movie? It was... Yeah.
Well, sound-wise, was anything musically that sort of...
I'll be honest, I was way too preoccupied in watching the movements to even be listening for sounds.
Didn't they have like a random musical number in there? It was like, I don't remember.
Other than the kid playing like with the music and sort of them figuring out eggs and fish, playing music.
Am I just really tired and
Fish and eggs.
Wrong movie.
Maybe I might be. I'm really tired. I'm sorry.
The closest they got to the singing part was having the record play while they're smashing bits or playing.
Wait. Did the bad guy sing a song?
Yeah, like that was what I was thinking. Like the bad guy just had this really.
When he was playing, spoilers, he does do a song about it, the evil Boxtrolls.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can tell.
That wasn't random though. That was.
It actually kind of is,
that's not like a Disney song all of a sudden thrown in and all of a sudden the birds are singing with you.
Oh, sorry, gonna go on a bunny trail here. Did you see Epic?
Yeah.
Yes.
They have that random musical number with like the caterpillar thing.
Was it a caterpillar?
I don't remember.
I do remember watching that movie with Emily actually like last year, but I wasn't really blown away by the film. It didn't register any.
It was actually super underwhelming.
It was amazing. You watch it, you're like, wow, it's so beautiful. Look at all this amazing stuff. The fairy's wings are really pretty. Walk out the theater, it's like, I'm just gonna go do something else. You know, it's like
I remember we saw it. Like, it was one of the first movies that we saw together as a class was. And I remember we all just got out of the theater, and it was like, you know, you're all kind of like, wow, everything's so pretty, and then, but the actual story fell so flat.
Yeah.
And I remember even one of our professors, Wayne, was talking about how, like, there were so many body mechanic issues.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, you'd probably have to ask him, and it was like term 1, so we didn't really understand body mechanics. We weren't really looking for them.
Yeah.
But I'm sure if we were to watch it again, and if what I'm saying is true, then we'd probably see it again, and it'd just be like, wow, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so what is your point about Epic?
I was just thinking that musical number, that was so out of place. Like, I mean, you had this kind of serious film all the way around, and then just, here, have a musical number. Like, we're just gonna break out with a song and dance. But in
Nostalgic
Boxtrolls,
Chick has a word for it. It's big-lipped alligator moment. Where it's, you remember?
Oh, from
All Dogs Go to Heaven.
Yeah.
I like that alligator.
No, it's a good alligator. It's just, it kind of comes out of nowhere.
No, it does, and it goes back to where it came from.
Yeah, like the first big-lipped alligator moment is not actually a big-lipped alligator moment. So that's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to...
Boxtrolls didn't have that feel, though. The musical number made sense, because
it was a gypsy lady singing.
Yeah, it was an event for their day.
Yeah.
It wasn't, I'm gonna sing about this, like...
Yeah.
The Boxtrolls, just because you're all here, like, it felt like it had a place.
Another thing, sorry, to go back, character-wise, with that little girl, I love how she tried to hide that she loved all the morbid stuff. She's like, are you gonna eat me and, like, tear away my face and like, you know, like, spit up my bones? I mean, I'm terrified, you know, like, it was just sort of that shift also in the facial... I don't know, I like that. That was a nice little touch to sort of her character.
Yeah, that was very interesting. She'll be a woman that won't be messed with when she grows up.
Yeah. Well, she'll definitely have daddy issues if there's nothing to talk about there.
Oh, that broke my heart.
Wow. Like that was blatant.
No, but that was like super. That was just, you know, to dive into story a little bit.
And they don't even really conclude it. Yeah,
it was kind of like left on a dry note, or it was kind of like, okay, now the dad acknowledges her existence, whereas...
I mean, even in Paranorman, the family sort of accepted Norman, I guess after going through what they did.
The family always loved him. Like, you could always see the concern for Norman in Paranorman. But, I mean, even at the end of Boxtrolls, with the dad being forced to choose his daughter over cheese. My gosh.
It was his hat.
His hat? Yeah, okay. Anyway. Yeah, I mean, it was still done with some resentment and with some, oh gosh, the word escapes me, but he didn't want to do it. He hesitance. There we go.
Yes.
He was still trying to keep his hat while saving his daughter. Like, I mean, for probably the parents in Paranorman, that wouldn't have happened. They'd be, give me back my kid.
Yeah. Because, I mean, the thing with Paranorman, too, is the dad, like, I think the dad was probably the most problem parent, because they'd always felt like the mother was much more, like, she was trying to be the middleman, in which, like, trying to support her husband and her son, but didn't quite know how to do it, because they're on such...
Yeah, there was so much conflict between them.
And I think the thing with the dad in Paranorman was the fact that he just didn't understand, and his lack of understanding led to fear, which led to anger.
Yeah.
Which led to the dark side.
Yeah.
And then Emperor Palpatine.
Yeah. Something dark side. Something complete. Do it.
I know that reference.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. Sorry.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. I have to agree. I think that was probably the one thing that. No, I'll think of something else that kind of grated on me. That was one of the things that grated on me.
Maybe just like miserable characters, but it felt like, well, actually I don't, but I don't know. It felt like, as far as like his other films go, Boxtrolls seemed safer.
Yeah, more child-friendly.
More child-friendly. Like, I mean, there was a scene...
Are the other two based on a book at all?
I know Coraline definitely is. I don't know. I don't think Paranorman is.
Yeah.
Yeah, Coraline was done by Neil Gaiman, who does, like, a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, I haven't looked into it. But,
just a few things.
He's like a super popular author, but I have never read any of his work.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I like him as a person, at least. I think he's a cool person. I don't have time to read stuff.
Fair enough. But like, I mean, with Coraline, you had the threat of Coraline being killed.
Yeah.
Like, all the time. At the hands of the other mother. Like, there's that whole game sequence where her life is on the line.
And she was terrifying.
Yeah, and the things that this girl went through were terrifying. And then you had,
Paranorman, well, I think Paranorman, like, you know, in those kinds of films, it's like, you know, the zombies are supposed to be like the antagonists-ish, but not directly.
Well, they do for the most part of the film, like, they are shown as like, oh, they're gonna kill us, look, they're brain-eating zombies, and then it's like, you realize, oh no, they're just trying to stop you from releasing havoc. And
no, I'm thinking more about, like, the dark messages, like the reality of things, because Coraline was going to be killed. There were the 3 ghosts that showed she was going to be killed.
Yeah.
Paranorman, the witch
was
this little girl who was killed. Like, they deal with pretty dark stuff in Leica films. Boxtrolls didn't do that. Like, you would think the dad died. No, he wasn't dead. Okay, so the Boxtrolls are being killed off. No, not really. They're just being enslaved. I don't know. It just felt a lot gentler. Like, the themes in this film were a lot gentler than Leica's previous films.
I mean, it still has kind of a gritty feel to it, where it's not like for young children. It's definitely, I think it's more for adolescents.
Yeah.
But I did get that impression, probably because you told me that before I saw the film. So
I'm sorry, I shouldn't have.
No. Like, and it's not a bad thing. Like, I don't think it's a bad thing. It's just, it's a little bit different from the
other 2 films.
Yeah, which the other 2 films are, especially Coraline, feels almost unapologetic in its execution.
Yeah. Oh, I love Coraline. Yeah.
And now we're gonna gush over Coraline while Wesley just sits here like...
I just don't remember liking it, that's all.
Okay.
I think I've told you guys this before, and I'm probably gonna get a lot of hate if I mention this, putting this online. But I felt it was pretentious. That was my problem with it. I felt it was too... It was like, look how spooky we are. Ooh, look at them, so different. And it was like, that's what got to me. I was like, I don't know if I can deal with this anymore. But as I said, at the time, I was like hypercritical about everything. Like, if I look back if I look at how I watch movies now, where I'm like almost inviting everything, and I'm genuinely excited about everything that's on movies right now. Whereas, like, I go back to during that time, like 10 years ago, I didn't like any movies really back then. I was like so hypercritical about everything. So I just think it was an unfortunate time for it to have come out during that time for me. But if I'm pretty sure, after really enjoying Paranorman and after really enjoying Boxtrolls, if I had to go back to Coraline, I'll probably really enjoy it. Like, I mean, it's... Heck, I'll watch it and make a review.
Yay! Maybe we'll have like a side podcast of the side podcast. An Animators nostalgia review. Reviews of movies that have already come out and
Nostalgic
been out
critics.
I think that name's been taken.
Yeah.
Anyway, so okay, well, yeah, honestly though, music-wise, I was impressed to find out that the score was written by one of the Pythons, Eric Idle.
Oh, that's
like,
right.
It just appeared at the end credits. I didn't go in, because I didn't do any research going into this movie. I just went and watched it. I was like just excited after seeing the trailers. But that would be something I know I would have been like hardcore behind, because of Eric Idle. Like, firstly, I love the Pythons. Secondly, it's like, I didn't really know he did music, to be honest. But it was a pleasant surprise for me because I was like, oh, that's awesome to see someone I really like and appreciate, and his like an appearance in something I really like and appreciate. So,
Pythons?
The Monty Pythons. Regan hasn't watched any of the Python stuff.
Okay, even I've seen the Holy Grail, and I've seen Spam-A-Lot, like on Broadway. I'm gonna show you the let's.
I don't think Pythons will be Regan's cup of tea.
Oh,
like
you're probably right.
I don't think it'll be.
It is that sort of dry.
It is very British in its humor.
Yeah.
It's very sarcastic. It's very meta before meta was even a thing. Like, it's aware of the ridiculous jokes it's trying to say, and then it just goes that next step. It's a skit, for example, like one of their more popular skits is it's the two of them standing there. I can't remember the name. It's something with a fish, dry fish, whatever. And it's like the one guy dances and then slaps the other guy with the fish, and then the other guy dances and then slaps the other guy with the fish, and they do that for a couple of minutes. And
they made a reference to that in Spam-A-Lot, where it's like okay, and here's the narrator's like, in jolly old England, it opens up with England, but the actors are like Finland, and then they start. It's called the fish slapping song.
Yeah, it's a lot of it's like really ridiculous. But when you watch it makes some sort of weird sense. It's not always clever. It's just funny. Like,
okay.
But they're just, oh, look at how ridiculous we are. It's also like, I don't want to sound pretentious because it's what it's going to be, but there's definitely a lot of it's educated ridiculousness. Okay. You can't make those jokes unless you know why you're making those jokes, and that's where I say the meta comes in. Because it's like, yeah, so... But I'm not saying that's not why you'd like it. I'm not saying you wouldn't enjoy educated humor. Not, again, that Pythons are even educated humor. My point is, sometimes the skits are either a little too offensive or a little bit too ridiculous for you to, I think, really get behind it, maybe.
Okay.
That also being said, you should watch it.
Alright.
Maybe one day, just sit down and...
Yeah.
Okay.
One day.
Give it a view.
Anyway, we keep getting off topic, too.
Okay, so let's hop into story. I can't remember the story fully because, again, I've only seen the movie once, and we did keep this review for a few days. But
yeah, because you goofed.
I didn't goof.
You totally goofed. You said you were going to bring the recorder.
Let's not bring domestics into the podcast.
Okay.
Fine, I goofed. Yes, but movie starts off, basically introduces the Boxtrolls, like straight up like little evil creature stealing a baby.
Yeah.
Which I thought was like, I loved it. I was like, because you knew that's not what it was. Because, I mean, after seeing all the trailers, you were like, okay. And I think that was a nice touch because it wasn't like, let's tell this whole fake story of the Boxtrolls and mislead you. Meanwhile, it was just like you all know, you've seen the trailers. These are Boxtrolls, they look after the kid. We know you've seen that. I think that was done quite well. I don't know whether done purposely. I need to read the original book so I know what was done on purpose and what wasn't. But from the sense of watching the movie, that's what it felt like. They were like, we're just going to run in, here's the character. Oh, they're the good guys, these are the bad guys.
Yeah.
Boxes. And then also, not... Everybody's also familiar with the Boxtrolls.
Yeah.
So when they hide in their boxes, people are aware that that's what the Boxtrolls do. It's not like these people don't know anything about the Boxtrolls and they get surprised. There's a bunch of boxes and they start hitting the boxes to find the Boxtrolls.
Yeah.
And I thought that was also really clever. That it wasn't sort of like, we know that's what the Boxtrolls do. We've already been introduced to that. So story-wise, it's nice that the other people know it already. It was a good sort of set of events, I thought, that told the story really well. Like, that's what I loved about this whole movie altogether. It told the story well, like, constantly. There was always nice elements to the breakdown of the story that I enjoyed.
I think I also mentioned, too, that I felt it was very well paced.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there didn't feel like a lot of slow parts. Well, it felt like there were good slow parts in where they needed to have slow parts. Because I remember I was talking with a friend of mine recently about a lot of the problems with kids' movies these days is they're just constantly bombarded with this information.
Really hyperactive.
Yeah, and I always find the movies that I don't enjoy as much as I wish I would are always the movies that are always constantly on. Like, that was the big problem I had with Rise of the Guardians, the one about Jack Frost and the Russian Santa Claus. Like, I loved conceptually, I loved that movie, I loved its story, I love its world, but it just constantly, like, and I constantly complain about the cinematography, because I watched it in 3D and I have a tendency to get a little bit motion sick, especially when the camera's constantly moving. And that was what this movie does. Like, I joke that the cinematography felt like little sweeping camera motion, big sweeping camera motion, little sweeping camera motion, big sweeping. It was like, it was constantly on. And there was like no breathing room. And like when it did have breathing room, it was just like, it was like a moment used to take your breath away. It was like, okay, settling part in the story. Now we're going to show you this amazing, fantastical, magical, colorful world. Look at how amazing this is, and we're going to pan the camera into everything, and suddenly story happens. And that's what I really appreciate, like, when the story feels well paced, in which you do have your nice tense little moments, and then you have just sort of that a little bit more of the breathing room where it's like more tense, less tense, and a constant story happening. Like, it didn't feel like it didn't come off as slow to me. Like, I didn't feel like there were any parts that were too slow. I don't know. It was just it was just
I was riveted the entire film. Like, I wanted to know what was happening next. There wasn't a moment, but that I can admit to that being part of three things. One, I felt the story was definitely...
Yeah.
You know, I wanted to know what was going to happen next, but if the story did ever lull, I wouldn't have noticed because the movie itself was so beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, okay, nothing's happening in the story. I'm going to look around. I'm going to watch the animation of, say, the Boxtroll moving, you know? And then that would be the third thing, would be the animation, like... If I'm not looking at the beautiful design sets, then I'm looking at the animation. So there was not a moment for me to be bored.
Yeah, it was definitely aesthetically, it was just so engaging.
But that comes as an artist and an animator. Now, if you want to, like, I'd need to see it in the eyes of just a moviegoer.
Yeah.
To, I think, really appreciate the points that you're making. But I do agree with him because I don't remember being bored.
Yeah. I do remember
or distracted.
I think, there was this... For some reason, this part keeps popping up in my mind where one of the calm before the storm moments was... and I thought this was a really interesting story point where the antagonist of the film, so basically this world is there are the red hats and the white hats, and the red hats are the exterminators. They're in charge of getting rid of the Boxtrolls, but there's one red hat in particular who really wants to be a white hat. Like, he wants to be in charge, like he wants to be part of the government, and it's not because he wants to govern, it's because of the status. And I thought this was a really interesting point in the story, and again, I would have to read the book to see if this was done
intentionally or not.
Yeah, like, because...
Are you talking about, like, the whole idea, because I know we were talking about it the other night, where the whole idea of him finally getting to that point where he's got the white hat, to him it's eating the cheese, even though, like, again, at this point you guys should be aware that these are spoilers, but he's allergic to cheese. So he eats the cheese, he swells up. And he's fully, like, I don't know if he's fully aware, but I'm sure on some level he might be. And, like, to him, I mean, he even hesitates, you know, everyone's, like, always looking at him, he's like, you know?
Yeah.
And, yeah, like, then we started talking about how it's more of a status symbol for him. It's more of the person buying the big expensive car and showing it off than actually even knowing how to drive the car. It's more the person owning a really big fancy looking house but not having any furniture inside because they can't afford this stuff. You know, it's the idea of, look, I'm part of this culture.
Yeah.
And then you stand out even more because you don't actually know what you're doing. You're not doing it because that's what you want to do. You're doing it because that's what it's perceived to be as power or whatever. And then, of course, his eventual demise,
which...
like, puts the pin in that balloon, if you will.
I gotta say, like, I was should we just give away the
They should know. Look, this is a critique. This is
a huge
film.
Yeah. Okay, this is a huge.
Yeah, we're gonna break down. We're breaking down the film in our own little ways. So.
Okay, so like this is a huge spoiler. So, but the way that the villain is defeated, like for good, like it's actually kind of funny because he defeats
his own hubris.
Yeah, like he basically offs himself in the most ridiculous way possible, and. Okay, so, I mean, usually it's not uncommon for villains to be the result, like, for them to be the catalyst of their own demise. Mm-hmm. Like, we've seen it before, like, one that comes to mind is Hunchback of Notre Dame, where Frollo is, like, he's on the gargoyle on the church, the Notre Dame, and he's got the sword, and he's about to, like, behead Esmeralda, but he loses his balance, and then he falls to his death. Mm-hmm. Usually it's, like, this big, dramatic, like, oh, it's so scary. But this was so ridiculous. So, of course, it was established that he's allergic to cheese, and, like, it's not, like, the usual milk, like it's not lactose intolerancy, but he like swells.
It's a full-on allergic reaction.
Yeah, like his lips get swollen and his eyes swell shut.
And that's another like congratulations to the builders of the rigs or whatever, because those bulbous lips and ears and eye pustules, they bounced. It was like it wasn't even like a
jelly, like
like.
And
good for them. The animators too, by the way.
Not to mention the fact that, like, when you do that, not only do you have to create an entire set of mouths for the default of the character, but you have to create an entire set of mouths for that part of the character when the character gets bulbous and his lips swell up and just so grotesque looking. And anyway, so his own demise is that he finally gets his white hat, and he forces everyone to sit around a table and watch him eat cheese. And so they try to get him like the most fancy cheese possible.
Well, he asks for it. He's like,
or something like that.
I don't know if you ask for it. They just present it to him.
Yeah,
like, here's the cheese of the lactating fruit bat or something like
that. Like the only male lactating fruit bat.
There we go.
Something ridiculous like that. And like,
way over the top.
And so,
it's great.
Of course, he swells up. And there's like these gurgling sounds, and it's like I'm expecting him to puke or something, but he explodes.
But it's also such an anticlimactic explosion because the camera completely trucks out to like the other end of the city, and you just hear poof, and there's just like this puff of cheesy, that yellow, like cheese, like that cheese, like this cheese puff that you eat, those cheese curls.
Cheetos.
Cheetos, the Cheetos stain, like. And it's like it's not even like a. It's just. And you're like, okay, well, I guess he's dead.
Well, and then later the little girl talks about like, and then there's
bloody guts.
Yeah, which I thought was like, she's not even fazed by it. She's actually like super.
She's delighted.
Yeah.
She finally got her gore.
I know, like. That would have totally traumatized me, but to her, she's just like, yeah, it was the
Bring
best.
It on!
And I just thought that was a cool thing. Like, the villains were super interesting in the sense that, like, it was that one guy, and the only reason he was doing everything that he was doing was to gain status. Like, it wasn't necessarily power, but it was just to be like, oh, look, I'm a white hat now, and I control things, and bleh.
Yeah.
And
the image.
To cut into that, what I'm also happy about, another trope I'm glad they completely avoided, was giving him a tragic backstory in any way. Like, like that's out of the window. Like, for all we know, like, I'm glad that I didn't want to know this guy's history. He's meant to be a bad guy, and it's so nice for a change not to sort of give the bad guy
sympathy.
Sympathy for the devil, if you will.
Yeah.
It's nice to sort of avoid that a little bit more. Again, like, sort of go back to the older way of writing bad guys, because.
Well, I think it's also like when it comes to status, like anybody could want status. Like even. I've seen it with my friends and family, the way that they're like, I need this thing. I need to buy this superficial electronic device or this car or...
Gourmet desserts.
Yes, I was talking about I knew someone who bought gourmet desserts simply because they said gourmet, and we were like, "This is disgusting. Why do you buy this?" And then that was the end of that.
Yeah.
So, meanwhile, I'm shoving my face with those disgusting Hostess cupcakes with the cream filling in it because I'm just like, it's chocolate and it's cream and I like it.
And there's 20 cents a pop.
It's like, I mean, I'm sure I've had my own issues with buying stuff because it gives me status subconsciously. I'm sure it's inevitable, but that being said, I think that was, I don't know, it is kind of nice because it wasn't necessary. Like, sympathy for the devil in this particular case, like, I don't necessarily...
It wouldn't have added to the story in any way.
Yeah, exactly. No. It would have taken away from the story. So that was just nice to have him, like, he's just so caught up in his own, like, wants that he just completely, like, forget everyone else.
Yeah.
Forget who I hurt.
Yeah. I actually really loved the side villain characters.
Yes.
Yeah,
I loved their development because, I don't know, I've seen in, like, several kid films, you'll have, like, two side bad guys just all of a sudden at the climax of the film, they'll be like, oh, what we're doing is bad. Let's stop. Let's join the good guys. Like, it's just at the very end where that happens with no real build-up towards it. But I loved how with Boxtrolls, what were the guys' names?
Mr. Trump and Mr. Pickle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the third guy, I don't remember.
Well, yeah, the third guy, he was not great. He was just crazy.
Well, that's the thing. I love that the three different villains, like, were different in their own ways.
Yeah, and I love
it. You had the two guys who throughout the film were questioning what they did.
Yeah.
Like, we're the good guys, right? Like, we're on the good side. But
I love, and
I don't know. I liked it.
And I love how, especially, I think it was Mr. Pickles is the skinny guy's name, and he's also voiced by, if you've ever seen the IT Crowd, the guy who plays Moss in that, his name is like Richard Ayoade or something? I don't know how to say his last name. But he's a hilarious character in the IT Crowd. If you ever get a chance to watch it, it was on Netflix last time I checked.
You're not being paid for this. Don't plug other people.
No, dude, but, like, I love him.
IT Crowd's very funny. Yes.
No, but seeing him as this character going through this existential crisis was an absolute treat. Like, I think he is a really funny actor, and seeing him play this part was so fitting to me. I just, maybe it's just because I like him as an actor.
No, the complete sort of, like, the differences, the contrast between each of the characters, because there's the fat one who's like, we're the good guys, right? And then he'll question it. He'll actually start getting like he'll start waxing, like, rhetoric about, like, are we good? Are we bad? Well, we're doing this from their perspective. Maybe we're bad. And it's like, and then there's like whoever the skinny one, the tall skinny one.
I think it's
and
Mr.
he's like,
Pickles.
Yeah, he's also like, we are the good guys. We have to be the good guys. We're doing the good guy thing.
Yeah.
Which again brings me back to my earlier point. Whereas if this was done from a human child's point of view, like say the little girl's point of view, like, that's what we would have seen. We would have seen these 5 or 4 good guy exterminators trying to stop these Boxtrolls, and then halfway through the movie or halfway through the second act, it would have been, flipped around, it turns out they're the bad guys, with some sort of reveal. Whereas we knew from the beginning that they weren't the good guys, and that they were then questioning sort of this type of thing, which has happened to people, I'm sure, sometimes. 'Cause, I mean, you must get some jerks out there who at some point ask themselves, like, Am I the jerk? I can't be the jerk. I don't want to be the jerk.
Yeah.
I'm not the jerk, and then they're going to do jerk things. And then, of course, in the third guy, who was just nuts. He was bad. That was it, straight up. He was a henchman through and through. He was just there to wreak havoc.
Yeah.
And I thought that worked really well, along with the boss man, who was blatantly using them. Like, he wasn't even hiding it. Like, they were like, you mean us? He's like, just go get it done. Like, don't even talk to me. You're not even on my level. Get on my level, nerd. So, but yeah. Otherwise, the whole film itself, I think, told a good story. was really funny, well animated.
Oh my gosh.
Everything.
We didn't talk about the robot yet.
Oh, well, let's talk about the robot then.
Yes.
Man, like just...
Regan likes robots, if nobody knew.
Well, I mean, it's
Spoiler.
not even
Hashtag
that.
robots.
It's not even that so much. It's just that rig was huge.
Oh, definitely. Well, considering that it must have put their rigs in, which
like,
they're already like the size of a forearm, like those rigs.
Yeah.
So to put
it was like 3 or 4 feet tall.
Yeah.
This rig, and it had all those tiny parts, and
all
all
they
those
were constantly moving as well.
Constantly
that
moving.
fire though was very impressive.
That was 3D.
Okay,
probably,
I would imagine. Yeah.
But
Though, could you imagine sitting and printing out like each one of the fire models like?
That's
not yet. Not yet. But yeah, that machine was insane. It was huge.
That would be a nice statue to have, by the way.
It would be a beautiful statue to have. But
Good luck.
Yeah. If you can get a hold of one.
That's easily a $500 statue minimum, even if it's just
I was gonna say
the 9
It's
inches.
probably double digits in the thousands now.
Yeah.
So,
But,
then you mean triple digits?
Probably.
Triple digits is thousands.
What? Oh shoot. No, like tens of thousands of dollars.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then that's like.
I'm sorry.
That's fine.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I'm really bad with numbers.
that's why we're animators.
That's what I say. There's a reason I got into a field that I had to use as few numbers as possible.
Yeah. But yeah, you had all those moving parts. You had the ropes and stuff swinging around like chains, and the characters interacting within these machines, because you had the bad guy. He was in the machine, and the machine's moving and walking around, and he's acting and animating, being animated as well, separately. Like oh my gosh,
Yeah, because in 2D, right, we can animate each unit by itself and not worry. Whereas this is now stop motion, so you have to animate everything at the exact same time.
Yeah. And if you do it wrong, you have to do the whole scene over.
Yeah. Oh man.
Oh
Could you
man.
imagine?
That's why I was mentioning to you. I think what Leica does. This is just my hypothesis. I have absolutely no way to affirm if this is true or not. But I think what they do is they actually build like really rough rigs in Maya, and then they just sort of like do a test animation in that, and then later they actually. Hello. Should we pause?
No, it's fine. I'll edit this out.
Okay.
You two are a ridiculous couple.
You're a ridiculous couple.
That doesn't work, Wesley.
It does.
No, it doesn't.
Anyway, so what were you saying? Like
yes.
your theory on Leica.
My theory is that what Leica does is they actually build like super rough rigs in 3D, and then what they'll do is they'll do like a test animation just to sort of plan what parts they'll be needing and what parts will need to be moving, and then they actually do the test animation with the puppets. That is my theory on how they do it. Or at least if I were to do something as complex and I had the money, that was how I would do it. Because I do know that Leica probably utilizes a lot of the 3D programs, not just in 3D printing.
It could be 2D as well. I know Pencil Test Studios, that's the studio that did Neverhood and Armacrog. They do pencil tests.
Oh, okay.
And they animate everything in 2D before they do it in 3D.
I know that's what Disney did for, I think it was pretty much every 3D movie now, is they actually do pencil tests. Like, I mean, you've seen the pencil test for Wreck-It Ralph and Tangled.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I love the one for Wreck-It Ralph especially.
Nick Ranieri.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nick Ranieri, and who did King Candy again? Was it Eric Goldberg?
I don't know.
I loved that scene so much. I wish there was a better quality one.
I don't think I've seen the King Candy one. You'll have to show me at some point. But I think 3D would probably be better just because you could actually build the shape of it.
I guess it makes sense too because they have rigs for the face in 3D, which they then print off.
Yeah. So I think that would just save an extra step.
I have no idea. I mean, like the animators all come from different places too at Leica. I got the chance to talk to one fellow who he's done his own films. It's like Gordon's Last Day or Charlie's Last Day, and it's this short about a dog who's it's his last day at the pound and he's going to be put to sleep. And then there's another one, Space Dogs or something like that, or Rocket Dogs, I don't know, where it's this dog fighting against like a termite kind of thing in outer space. It's pretty great. But he did a bunch of scenes in Paranorman, and when I was talking to him, he said he was also going to be working on Boxtrolls as well.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, I think they might all have, like, just like we have different ways that we plan animation, I'm sure at Leica the animators have different ways as well, whatever they're comfortable with.
I would be very curious. Well, that's something we should buy the DVD and watch the special features on.
That would be good. I guess we could also watch the special features on Paranorman. Maybe.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. Of course, I don't have any of my movies with me, unfortunately. So
I'll bug Luna.
Oh, there you go.
Can we borrow Paranorman?
I think
email me it.
I think Liz has Paranorman too, so that's another person. I know I have the special edition Coraline, but I'm currently living on what I only on what I need at the moment. So once I kind of settle into in the industry, then I'll bring all my nerdy things.
Oh, I just learned them from you.
Oh, that's okay. Well,
if they have the documentaries with them, then
yeah, because we're looking for the special features, not the movies.
They're not in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why I get DVDs. Of course, your problem is that you have regions to worry about. So
yeah. All my DVDs and Blu-rays are at home. They're useless here.
Yeah. Like that's.
Unless I get like a region-free thing and. Whatever.
It's not the point. Anyway.
But yes, back to robot monster.
Yes.
Beastie.
Fantastic. Just gotta say that.
Yeah, no, look, it's a it's a beast because you're right. Like it's also it's not just sort of the robot itself moving. It's also like the parts that like when the trolls are busy tearing down like the arm or the leg or whatever it was trying to tear down.
Yeah.
Like those parts had to make sense. It didn't have to be like it wouldn't, because I mean obviously that thing wouldn't actually exist. There's no way something like that could actually do what it was doing in real life.
Yeah.
But in the sense of it being built, the trolls actually had to dismantle it. They actually had to be parts for them, and for the parts still had to make sense. Like these parts need to be removed because that's what's holding it in. So there definitely had to be some sort of engineering design behind that, and then how that those trolls could, so there's like I know there's the little moving parts, but then there's the parts that you don't even see in the arm rigs, like the bending parts that make it that like it's still. Because I used to, I can't remember the name of the toys, but I used to build little robots like that with what was that?
No, I just...
Okay.
Sign language. Girl talk.
Oh, okay. Anyway, yeah, girls are talking in their weird girl talk. So...
I was just signaling to Regan I wanted to turn off the bathroom light because it was making noises.
I got it.
I didn't see the... I was like, okay. Anyway, more editing, thank you very much.
Fix it in post.
Yeah. Anyway, so... Yeah, I'm just very impressed by that. Just thinking about it, I never would have thought about it before. Which I guess that's why I'm not working at like a studio. So maybe
one day. I hear Portland's really. I've actually got a cousin there.
Portland.
It just seems like Vancouver south.
I actually hear they get more. I actually hear that Portland gets more inches of rainfall per year than.
No
Vancouver.
Thanks.
Like
I don't want that.
Because like the thing with Vancouver is
I do love rain, but even Vancouver's rain's a bit too much for me.
Really?
Yeah, it's like it's got to that point. I'm like, okay, we get it. You're a rainforest. Can we move on?
Okay, see, I actually haven't gotten sick of the. No, see, I haven't actually gotten sick of the rain yet. I guess it's because I'm from this dry, arid region where like.
So am I, but I hate the rain.
Yeah, but like for me, growing up, like getting rain was like friggin' Christmas in July. It was like, yeah, we're gonna put on our rain boots and we're gonna run out. Like me and my brothers would get our raincoats and we'd run outside and we're like, yeah, it's raining.
No, it's. I like rain in the morning and I like rain at night when I'm inside.
Yes.
When I have to go to work and I walk down the block and I'm completely drenched and my waterproof backpack is wet inside, then I'm starting to question whether I like rain or not. I mean, I still love it. I'd still rather stay here than go back home.
Yeah.
But it's.
Let's not go somewhere even more rainy.
Yeah. There's no. I'm very happy in Vancouver at the moment.
Okay.
So.
But
that being said,
moving into the ocean.
That being said, if Lycus somehow came to me and was like, you know what, we do like it, we somehow we can mold you into what we want, I'll be like, you know what, give me a green card, let's do this. You know, I'll be all over that.
Yeah,
for sure.
So Lyca, if you're looking for an amateur animator, no, I'm just kidding.
I'm actually
pretty
American.
Good. I'm pretty good at
I'm
my
legal
job.
to work in the States.
Ask Regan, right,
All you have
Regan?
to do is American.
Ah!
Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba.
Excuse me, I'm going to recede into my...
That's gonna pop. Oh, it's getting redder. Oh my goodness. Your pun made Emily go red.
Yay!
That's fantastic, and that's recorded for all to hear on the internet.
Yes!
Oh no, that's gonna come back to bite me.
Yes, it is. Anyway, I think we're pretty much done talking about this film, unless there's anything else you guys want to...
I guess just in terms of the Boxtrolls themselves, I can't help but feel like the Boxtrolls were written, like, I can't help but feel like every single one of those Boxtrolls had, like, their own backstory and personality that you never see on the screen, but they each have their own little, like, quirks, and they all have their own little, you know, like, there's like, we don't know all of their names, off the top, but I know that there's, like, you know, one who's works with the oil can and one that wears the goggles.
I think the oil can was called Oil, because he had an oil.
Yeah, he was actually oil can, actually.
Oh, was it oil can? I thought it was just oil.
Actually,
I like Emily. I gave her a poster.
Yeah, I actually have a poster of him. But, yeah, anyway, there's also the crazy scientist with the goggles, and he's always doing those. He's always sticking forks into toasters. Yeah. I just... Like, yeah, I'm still trying to figure out, I don't know if this film was stronger or weaker than the other Leica films, because I'm trying to compare it.
Yeah, it's a very different film. Like, I mean, for a Leica film, I'll definitely say it's in my opinion, out of the three, it's the weakest. But you compare it to pretty much any Disney film, and or anything that other studios are coming out with right now, it's strong and it stands out.
Yeah,
it's a really good film. Just, I think we've been spoiled with the story advancements of the other two Leica films, and they've set the bar really, really high for themselves.
Yeah.
So.
I think also, it's just nice to, especially when you have a constancy of, like, Madagascar 15. They're in space now for some reason.
Madagascar in space!
So, like, you know, so it's really nice to see a film that's not afraid to be a little different, you know?
Yeah.
Well, that's like in a nutshell, isn't it?
Yeah.
A movie company that's not afraid to be a little different.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
in a good way, and in a creative way, and in a successful way. Like, that's also key. Like, successful. It's easy to be different.
Yeah.
You know, anybody can be different, but it's like Leica's like, I don't think that's their aim, really. I think their aim is to tell a story that they want to tell without being influenced or guided by, you know, oh, you gotta have a man in the front role, or you gotta do this with the characters. You know, it's like, you know, like, going completely off the rails. You look at Godzilla. There is no reason to bring that man in with his freaking kids in that movie. But he's there. and he has more screen time than Godzilla, and that's a thing. Or Silent Hill 2, I was giving you that example the other day, where Silent Hill 2's male protagonist was pretty much shoehorned into that film because it had to have a white male. And it was like, that destroys a possibly really great movie, and like that's what I think Laika doesn't have. They don't have... Was that
the protagonist, the guy with the British accent who couldn't do an American one? Is that the one you...
Probably.
Yeah.
But my point remains... I don't think Laika's affected by sort of greedy hands,
Well, isn't that kind of how
trying to guide them? Well, I don't know who is funding Laika. Do you guys know?
No.
Where's the money coming
from? Connected to Nike.
Because that's the thing, right?
When you of the guy who owns Nike.
Yeah, because when you well, that's great, because when you have I think you see the problem is. Again, economics kicks in and kicks everyone in the balls. You have these investors, and they obviously want their investment back and profit. That's why you invest in the movie. So when they say, well, as long as you've got these 5 elements that every movie must have in order to be successful, then that's why a lot of movies always seem so samey. Whereas I don't know. But it doesn't feel like Laika has that. So if you probably have the son of the Nike owner who's running this, not only does he have probably a lot of money coming in from the family business, but is he like the animator or something, or is he just an investor?
He's an animator as well.
Oh,
so that probably explains a lot. I'd have to do more research into it. I just feel that the grubby paws of investors aren't... and I don't want to badmouth investors, because obviously I'm going to one day probably ask for investor help, but it's nice to sort of see it not... I think that's where the studios succeed, where these stories have succeeded, that they can tell the story that they want. So other than Coraline, my feelings for Coraline, which I've mentioned, I will say, and again, which I'm very much sure is going to change once I watch it again.
You are going to watch it again?
I am. Maybe this weekend or whatever. But these two, I love Paranorman a lot. I probably would say that's my favorite Laika film at this moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not... It's like, these are the things we like, and we're going to put it into a film, and we're going to tell this amazing story, and we're not going to interfere that story and adapt it just to sort of make this one trope happy. It's like... And
it doesn't feel formulaic.
Yeah. That's not even what I'm trying to get... But it's true what you said, it's not what I'm trying to get at. It's just that there's no concessions made. This is the story, and we're making the story that we want to make. There's no age restriction in the story we want to make. There's no there's no tropes that we have to follow to make $1 million. There's no this and this and this that we have to do to make people happy. This is the story we want to make. If it loses money, that sucks. If it makes money, great. We're going to make the next movie the same way we want to make the movie. And that's why I think each movie also feels different. That's why I don't think it's a bad thing that Boxtrolls, as you say, is the weakest story. I just think it's a different story told differently.
Well, it's a good story. Not saying it's a bad story.
Oh, no. Well, that's all I took from it. Just out of the 3 that have been presented. 3 amazing stories, it's the weakest out of the 3.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even say it's weak. I'd just say, for my own personal tastes, it's not as edgy. I like boundaries and buttons being pushed, which is funny considering my background, but
that is funny.
But Boxtrolls just seemed the safest out of the 3. Though I will say that the cross-dressing character, the villain,
yes,
that was pushing things.
That was... So? I don't know. I felt that was just part of the story.
You had lines where, when they found out that Frou Frou was actually the dude.
Oh, and then
the guy said, "I have so many regrets."
Yeah, right, because that's where I'd be like, that's where it is. But the cross-dressing, it wasn't like he was cross-dressing because I'm a girl. It was cross-dressing because I have a goal that I must reach, and I'll reach it any way possible.
Yeah.
So it was more comedic in the cross-dressing.
Yeah.
That he would go to those...
Because it wasn't like he was hiding it well. It's not like, oh no, you're a woman. It's like, it's obviously that guy in a dress.
Well, it just goes to show you... To me, it's creepy because it goes to show you the lengths that he'll go in order, like, wasn't there a part?
Anonymators canon. Emily thinks that cross-dressers are creepy.
Excuse me, my favorite comedian is Eddie Izzard. You know this.
Hashtag stuff.
You went to go see him with me.
It's too late to make up things funny. Anyway.
No.
I'm teasing, by the way. I like to tease Emily.
Can we make this joke about the lesbian pop?
Oh, please do.
No.
So earlier,
No.
before we wrap up this thing, Emily was talking about the band Tattoo, and Rammstein, and how they had done, like, somebody had mixed the music up together, and she referred to the Tattoo music as lesbian pop, which is grossly.
It rubs her in the right
and
ways.
it rubs her in the right ways. So
I'm gonna make a joke about feather people.
no, please go ahead. I am proud of feather people. I am.
Wesley couldn't think of the word native or Indian.
No.
So he said feather people.
No, that's not what it was. I was talking about the Brazilian girls who had the feather wings at like a Mardi Gras or whatever. And then I was like, those feather people, and you guys thought I was talking about Native Americans, which we weren't even talking about. So I'm not the racist in this situation. I'm just saying. So now that Emily's a homophobe and I'm a racist, please tell us how you like pushing boundaries on Christianity gendered-based stuff.
I think I'm the queerest one in the room right now, actually.
Well, anyhow, back to the movie before we embarrass ourselves any further. I say the voting system will be out of 8 boxes. So what's your vote?
Is this out of 10?
No, like 8 boxes. So out of 8.
Oh, why are you changing the rating system?
Last time it was out of 4. Now it's out of 8. I don't know.
This is
because rating systems are ridiculous, and that's what I'm doing.
This is really you're messing it. No.
I give it 1 giant robot out of 8 boxes.
Sure, that's what I'm gonna do too. And a fish.
And a fish on the robot, like cooking inside.
No, like the fish.
Well, the giant robot over the 8 boxes
Boxtroll
represents, because the giant robot was so awesome, and it took all the Boxtrolls to fight it, so it was the best. It was a fantastic movie. I really liked it.
Fish was my favorite Boxtroll.
And Fish was the best Boxtroll.
Yes, I liked Fish a lot.
Are we doing the box rating system out of 8?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll give it a 7 boxes out of 8.
7 boxes.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good rating. Yeah.
Each box has a troll in it.
Yeah.
Okay.
7 box trolls
out of 8.
Out of 8.
And one of them's a baby Boxtroll.
Yeah.
Because he represents the childlike.
Hey Emily.
What?
I'm Mary-kin.
You know what, Regan? When you get a boyfriend, I'm gonna rip you apart.
Okay, I'm gonna stop this podcast before it gets. Good night, and thank you for listening.